6 Ways to Gain Power in Uncertain Times. In 1934, Mao Zedong and his Communist Red Army were retreating north across China on what would become known as the Long March. Mao was kicking himself for losing sight of the military advice of Sun Tzu, who wrote The Art of War over 2,000 years earlier. See, the communists had some early success in besting China's nationalist army and absorbing many of their men and weapons. But Mao realized that the communists had then become too arrogant and failed to understand the enemy's next move. From there on out, Mao decided the communists would fight with guerrilla tactics. They would occupy the countryside and choke out supply routes. When the nationalists advanced, they would retreat. When the nationalists camped, they would harass. Then the Japanese invaded China. The nationalists and Mao's Red Army agreed to a truce while they fought off the Japanese invaders. But the nationalist army took the brunt of the damage. Meanwhile, Mao sharpened his guerrilla tactics on the Japanese. He lost few men, and when the Japanese retreated, Mao's army was able to take much of their equipment left behind. Mao emerged from World War II strengthened and defeated the weakened nationalist army by 1949. Don't mistake this example of success for praise. Mao became a brutal dictator and killed tens of millions of innocent people. But he started as an underdog, rising up against a more powerful elite. And he was able to do so largely by applying the lessons he learned from the art of war. Retreat from battles you cannot win. Preserve your forces and take the enemy whole whenever possible. Understand both the enemy and yourself. Perhaps the most encompassing theme of the art of war is for the army to be like water. Now an army may be likened to water, for just as flowing water avoids the heights and hastens to the lowlands, so an army avoids strength and strikes weakness. And as water shapes its flow in accordance with the ground, so an army manages its victory in accordance with the situation. And as water has no constant form, there are in war no constant conditions. Thus, one able to gain victory by modifying his tactics in accordance with the enemy's situation may be said to be divine. You don't aim to topple the enemy's stronghold. You take from him where he is weakest. And if he tries to reclaim what you have won, he is fighting on a battleground which you have chosen. Number 1. Concentrate your forces. If I am able to determine the enemy's dispositions while at the same time I conceal my own, then I can concentrate and he must divide. And if I concentrate while he divides, I can use my entire strength to attack a fraction of his. Spreading resources too thin leaves you vulnerable to attack and unable to advance. Focus is important. Whatever your plan, you should work methodically and always know what move comes next. It is better to find a valuable mine and mine deep rather than flitting from one mine to the next. Trying this, that, or the other thing may be important to discover what you want to focus on. But once you know, dive deep. Really invest your time, energy, and whole self into it. Use all your energy for one goal. Dedicate yourself to a task and follow through. That doesn't mean you can never pivot and go a different direction, but there is a difference between strategically shifting and just getting bored. You have to have the fortitude to finish what you start. For example, as a teenager, Leonardo da Vinci mastered the art of drawing. He observed insects and birds for hours on end in order to draw them extremely accurately. He used this foundation of scientific observation to become an inventor and engineer. Of course, his artwork is still admired, but more importantly, it formed a foundation for his later success in engineering. Choose your one thing and commit until you have sufficiently mastered it for your purposes. Dedicated focus to an industry, a skill, or other pursuit is important to form a foundation to work from. 2. Use proven weapons of influence. Remember what Bernays teaches us about public relations. You cannot simply highlight the benefits and features of whatever you are offering. You have to attach it to emotion and tap into the currents already flowing through society. Bernays didn't create the women's rights movement, nor did he invent cigarettes, but he made women associate smoking cigarettes with women's empowerment. Whatever path you choose going forward, you will always need to sell, whether it is a product, an idea, or yourself. You have to use proven psychological triggers to soften people to your ideas. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People is a great place to start in learning how to get out of your own way, in a sense. And Robert Cialdini's influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, is a perfect next step in understanding the triggers which make people comply with requests. Seduce, don't coerce. Knowing the basics of marketing and public relations will help in basically every area of your life, which is why I weave marketing and advertising methods into my papers and videos. Sun Tzu also advised using psychology to attack your enemy's morale. How depends on your situation. Sometimes it benefits you to stoke overconfidence in your enemy. Other times, you need to confuse them to slow them down. One ancient Chinese general threw open the gates to his city when he knew that he would lose an attack. Suspecting a trap, the advancing army delayed, giving the city enough time to garner reinforcements. Number 3. Appeal to the self-interest of others. Gaining power requires the cooperation of others. You will need followers, workers, or customers to form your base. And you will need partners, allies, and associates to form your network. For instance, one of the Red Army's biggest sources of recruits and weapons was the nationalist army they were fighting. The army had such low morale that they were enticed by Mao's promises of a better China under communist rule. Mao appealed to his potential recruits by treating them better than the enemy treated them, and in the same way, we can erode the base of the current elite. Whether that means creating a better working environment, a superior product, or improving social systems, you can align the elite's forces to your cause. The current elite too often use coercion or trickery to make people comply with their wishes, but this inevitably creates more problems for them. It presents us the opportunity to siphon off their supporters with better offers. For instance, providing better alternatives for charity, currency, and regulation. When dealing with allies and potential partners, don't ask for any favors. Always make your case in terms of what the other party has to gain. Of course, this is way easier if a partnership with you will truly be a major benefit to them. So if you first strive to create value, the hard work is already done. Don't try to argue your way to the top. Show through your actions how valuable you are. If you are irreplaceable, you have power. And by the way, if you're super valuable, it is all the more important to use effective marketing techniques. Otherwise, all your benefits never reach your audience. 4. Find a mentor. When you are just starting your trek to the top, the best way to make early gains is to find one powerful person who you can be very useful to. You can use these tactics to land the opportunity. In the beginning, that's the best way to test yourself and practice the skills required to grow your power. In the process, you will demonstrate your worth to the mentor. Seek them out and make yourself useful. Relieve friction in their life without asking them what they need. Being able to see what they need is half the value. The other half, of course, is delivering. You start not by increasing your own power, but by increasing theirs. If you are useful, you will rise with them. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there to find someone worthy of apprenticing with. Dead ends, being turned down, and still being persistent can be an important part of the process. Don't just give up if it doesn't go as planned on the first try. Someone will be more excited to teach you if they see how much you want it, and see you go above and beyond to help them before asking for anything in return. 5. Surround yourself with the right people. You probably know the cliche, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So make sure you're always the one dragging down the group. Just kidding. Kind of. You really do want to surround yourself with other hardworking people with a similar vision. They should be people who help you realize your full potential, or whose creative energy helps spark and explore new ideas. We all have certain skills, and it helps to find people with complementary skills. But even if the people around you are not working with you directly, their energy and attitude should be conducive to growth, not stagnation. In the reverse, eliminate people who are drains on your time, money, and energy. You can't rise tied down to dead weight. There are certain pay-to-play places to go to meet new people who may be high-quality partners and friends. For instance, flying first class is a way to come into contact with people of a certain means. But that doesn't mean they necessarily share your vision of the world. There are plenty of better options. Every niche will generally have certain clubs, events, or organizations that help you mingle. For me, it started with a Freedom Festival in New Hampshire. Later, I attended an entrepreneurship camp run by Sovereign Man's founder, Simon Black. These events allowed me to come into contact with people who shared my vision of the world and were working hard to make it happen. In fact, my plan is to create a community for those of you who find this content useful. Stay tuned. 6. Be elusive and adaptable. The enemy must not know where I intend to give battle, for if he does not know where I intend to give battle, he must prepare in a great many places. And when he prepares in a great many places, those I have to fight in any one place will be few. All the enemy sees is empty land, but he doesn't realize this is your stronghold. You don't gain power by erecting an immobile fortress, and you don't do it by attacking the enemy's fortress either. Your flexibility and freedom is the main strength, and the enemy's inability to maneuver is its weakness. Don't start your rise to power by competing against the giants. Claim the territory they have forgotten about and neglected. That is where the opportunity is. The underserved markets. The people who need an alternative to the only options they are given, controlled by the same few people, governments, and corporations. Remember, you are fighting a guerrilla war against a more powerful enemy. You need to be able to fade back into the trees when it suits you and pop out in surprise when and where they least expect it. You separate their forces and deal with one unit at a time. You don't march out onto the battlefield in rows and meet a superior force. You hide in the forest and pick soldiers off on their retreat back to safety. There is nothing wrong with blending in while you gather your strength. Hiding is not cowardice if it allows you to gain a tactical advantage. Wait for the right time and draw them to you. Otherwise, you are on a battlefield which they have chosen. Be adaptable to changing circumstances. Become anti-fragile. Think of ways you can gain from the disorder around you. Otherwise, a changing world will break you. In short, to become elite, you must provide value. Only by having something to contribute should you expect reward in return. Leverage that value. Get people to see the benefits you offer. Avoid friction. Forgoing proven marketing tactics or fighting battles you can't win will only create resistance from customers, employees, competitors, investors, volunteers, etc. This section is essentially a summary of some of the main themes of my articles and videos. As you follow me, these points will be expanded on and explored in more depth. I'd be lying if I said becoming powerful is as simple as reading a report or watching a video. It takes dedicated study and practice. Take it all in little by little, and before you know it, you'll start to see daily opportunities to gain power, influence, and wealth. One last word of advice if you are serious about growing powerful. In his book, The 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene's 29th law of power is, plan all the way to the end. There's a simple reason why most men never know when to come off the attack. They form no concrete idea of their goal. Once they achieve victory, they only hunger for more. Most people have some amorphous, general idea of the freedom and power they want, which amounts to little more than a feeling. You never achieve that type of dream, because there is nothing of substance to grasp. Hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell so that you're notified next time a video comes out if you want more content like this. I'm Joe Jarvis. Thanks for watching.